Okay, well, let's talk more about our main news today here on BBC World News, and that's the funeral, the state funeral of Nelson Mandela. With me is my BBC colleague, Lebo Diseko. Lebo, first of all, I'd like to get some of your thoughts on the state funeral itself, because you were sitting here with me throughout the 5 hours that today's ceremony took. Your overall impression first, especially as a South African yourself.
Yeah, it was just incredibly moving from start to finish, actually, from the moment that we saw the military, right at the beginning, the military bringing the body on the gun carriage there, and it was sort of the juxtaposition of the military and the formations and all the ceremony around that, with the sort of rolling hills and the countryside of Kunu. And you know, this is the land that he used to run around on when he was a young boy. Mandela always talked fondly about how he used to like to take walks around the area. So seeing them bringing that body into the marquee where the whole service was held was just incredibly moving. And then going into that service, it was just, it really was breathtaking, really, how moving it was. And there was a number of heads of states. I think there was 4,500 people in that marquee, actually, a number of heads of states as well. And we can actually see pictures of the body as it's being brought along on the gun carriage, and you see that countryside, and you think that was where Nelson Mandela grew up, where he ran around. It was just absolutely breathtaking to watch there. And we see in the marquee again, it began with people singing and sort of those songs that we've been so used to seeing in the week, those struggle songs that kind of build people's spirits up, really. But then it took more of a sort of somber tone, people more reflective. It was really, really moving from start to finish, I think.
It was a very early start, wasn't it, too?
Yeah, it really was. And the family will have had an even earlier start, because before all of this took place, they will have performed traditional ceremonies. They will have slaughtered an ox and done all the proper cultural things for Mandela's send-off.
We're watching pictures now of when the coffin did enter the marquee, and I'm not sure if we're going to see the picture, but I know that you and I were both very touched when we saw, there it is there in the picture, Winnie Mandela and Graça Machel holding hands and walking in, and very much a show of unity between those two grieving women. In terms of the ceremony itself, the tone of it seemed to be quite right, didn't it? It was sombre when it needed to be, it was reflective when it needed to be, but there were also stories. I think the granddaughter Nandi's eulogy you quite liked.
You know, it was just beautiful hearing those insights that you never hear about him as a grandfather, what he was like in the home. And she told a story that he used to like, that Mandela used to like to tell himself, about when he was young and he wanted to impress a girl, and he'd gone round to her family's home, but he didn't quite know how to use a knife and fork properly, so he was sort of chasing the chicken around the plate. And you know, just those sort of those anecdotes that you don't get to hear that often. And one thing that really touched me, actually, was that the President Zuma, when he came out, he thanked the family for sharing their grandfather, their father, with the nation. And really, it was the first time I've heard such tribute played to his children. They didn't ask to share him, and yet they did.
Another very moving eulogy was Ahmed Kathrada, and I know that moved us and moved many, many people. I think we can have a listen to that.
Mandela, your abundant reserves of love, simplicity, honesty, service, humility, care, courage, foresight, patience, tolerance, equality, justice, continually served as a source of enormous strength to many millions of people in South Africa and the world. You symbolize today, Mandela, and always will, qualities of a collective leadership, reconciliation, unity, forgiveness, nation building, and a non-racial, non-sexist South Africa. In this spirit, you exemplified your life. It is up to the present generation and generations to come to take up the cudgels where you have left.
He also talked about that void, and that was probably the most moving part.
Just heartbreaking, the moment where he spoke about Walter Sisulu, who's a mentor to both Mandela and to himself, to Ahmed Kathrada, and he said, when Walter Sisulu died, I felt like I'd lost a father, and now you've gone, I feel like I've lost a brother. Who do I turn to now? And you could hear his voice breaking, and it was just so moving.
Lebo, we're looking now at pictures after the state funeral, the official part, with 4,500 people in attendance, broke up. A group of 450 people, close family and other dignitaries, I think some members of the cabinet, made their way onto the grounds of the homestead at the funeral plot. Now, this was very touching as well, and I think the fact that the cameras didn't show when Nelson Mandela was lowered into the ground actually made it even more poignant, because we knew at that moment when the cameras pulled away that he was being buried. How did you feel witnessing that?
I really thought so as well. I just thought that we got a sense of what it was like there, but just that private moment for the family to see their father, their grandfather.
They've had so few private moments, haven't they?
Really, they really, really have. And I think I can't imagine having to share that moment with the whole world, with a nation. But I thought it was really beautifully done, actually, really beautifully and respectfully just sort of cut away, and we saw the pictures of the fly paths and the rolling hills of Gunu there after the body, or whilst the body was actually being lowered into the ground there.
We saw a lot of military ceremony. We saw a lot of the Methodist church tradition. I don't think we saw a lot of the Tembu tradition that we were perhaps expecting. However, you believe a lot of that would have happened earlier in the morning, and the fact that the body was being watched overnight. Explain to me some of those rites and rituals.
Well, the thing is, I mean, we're probably not going to know a lot of what happened behind the scenes, and, you know, the service, he was supposed to have been buried at midday on the dot. The service overran, and there were probably some negotiations that happened with the elders, with the leaders of Abatembu clan, but certainly overnight there was an all-night vigil that was held with the members of the clan, and the whole way since the body was transported from Pretoria, went in the plane, came and brought to Gunu. There was a member of the family there talking to the body, talking to it, so that the spirit basically knows where it's going, knows where the body's being transported to. The belief being that if that doesn't happen, then the body and this spirit can't unite, and the spirit will kind of walk the country restlessly. So really all of the things done that are seen to be the correct things, that he may really rest in peace.
Let me very briefly, I know you're a journalist, you're a BBC journalist, but your thoughts today as a South African?
I think as a South African, it has, as I said, been incredibly emotional. There's a sense of closure, a sense of sadness, a sense of grief, but also an incredible sense of gratefulness that we had this man and how much he gave us. So grateful to his family for letting us have him, you know. So, yeah, mixture of emotions.
Lebo, thank you very much for those thoughts. We're going to leave you now with some special pictures from today, the state funeral of Nelson Mandela.
It is the end of 95 glorious years of a freedom fighter, a dedicated and humble servant of the people of South Africa.